Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer. In this video, I'm not discussing a book. Instead, I'm answering questions in the Reading Habits questionnaire. The questions give you an insight into what I think about reading habits, what are my habits, and are there habits that I think people shouldn't do with their books. Let's start the quiz now. Of course I do. The main places I read at home are in an armchair, in a recliner chair, in the lounge room, or in bed. So it could be in bed or on top of the bed, either or. I have read novels before in the bath. I don't recommend it. I think I have dropped one book in the bath when I've been reading it, which of course is not good for the book. So I don't recommend the bath, but lounge room, bedroom, that's fine. Bookmark. For me, it has to be a bookmark. There have been times where I've been caught out without a bookmark. You know, when you're on the train or somewhere in public away from home and you've got a new book you're starting reading and you just can't find a bookmark. Those times I've had to use a bit of paper and it stresses me out a bit. And I just keep thinking throughout the day about a bit of paper in that book. And when I get home, the first thing I do is quickly take it out and slot in the bookmark. Sometimes when I get library books, you're reading them and you come across a piece of paper that people have left in the book. Could be a shopping list, could be a slip because they had that book on reserve at the library. Anything really in the book. I don't like that and it kind of freaks me out a bit, and so I don't want to touch it, so I have to go and slide it into the bin just to get rid of it. I don't think people should leave things in books like that. I'd rather a bookmark, then you know everything's well with the world. A certain number of pages doesn't worry me. It's all about time. Sometimes you have time to read 50 pages. Sometimes you have time to read 20 pages. That doesn't really worry me at all. I do prefer to stop end of a chapter or in a chapter gap, you know, when a scene's changing or the POV's changing from one character to another. That's my preference. But of course, the world doesn't work like that. So if you have to finish at any part of the book, that's fine, as long as you can mark your place with a bookmark. Yes to both. It depends what you're reading though. If you're reading something that has a risk of spilling onto the pages, then don't do it. Drinking, I think drinking is not a problem, unless you're really clumsy. If you're a clumsy person, then stay away from books while you're eating or drinking, and that goes for any type of drink or food. Just keep away. There should be a law about that actually. If you're a clumsy person, you should be forced to keep away from books while you have food or drink in your hands, or maybe if you're even nearby food or drink, depending on how clumsy you are. For the last maybe 4 or 5 years, no music or TV while I'm reading. I think quite a few years ago, it didn't bother me so much. I do recall as a teenager, I could read in the lounge room while the family was watching TV, and that didn't bother me, but now it does. I think even on the train, I used to be able to listen to music while I was reading. I can't do that now. I just need quiet or silence. If you're in public and you're trying to read and it's too noisy, it's just too distracting. So I do prefer quiet or silence. My preference is one book at a time. There are times where you have to do 2 or more. The main reason for that for me is that if you're at home and you're reading a large paperback or a hardcover, they're heavier books. So if you're in the middle of one of those books and then the next day you need to go somewhere, go to the office or go elsewhere, and you want to take a book with you, you don't always want to carry a heavy book. So then I'll switch to a lighter book, a smaller paperback, or an ebook. I take my tablet and read an ebook. So in those instances, yes, I'll be reading more than one book. I think I answered this question already in the previous questions. My preference is reading at home, but if I'm travelling, going into the office, elsewhere, then I'll read in public on public transport. It doesn't bother me. I don't think I read out loud. At least I hope I don't read out loud. I'm pretty sure I read silently in my head 100% of the time. I think by now, if I did read out loud, especially in public, when you're on public transport or just waiting in a waiting room somewhere, I think by now somebody may have filmed me and put me on YouTube reading a book out loud, and that was going to happen. Maybe there's a channel somewhere called People Reading Out Loud in Public. I should check that out and see if it exists. But I think for myself, I do read in my head all the time. I don't read ahead, and I don't skip pages. I've known people who do skip pages. I've known people who will read the last chapter of the book before they finish the entire book. I think that's a bit crazy, to be honest. Why would you do that? Why would you spoil the whole read for yourself by reading the end of the book first? This person who did this once saw me reading a book and was interested in that book that I was reading and asked me to read the last chapter and let them know what happened at the end. And this was before I even got to the last chapter. I think it was only maybe a third of the way through the book at the time. I refused, of course, because I just found that a bit of a ridiculous question. It's a bit crazy for me. I don't want to skip pages. I don't want to read the end of the book before I read the rest of the book. And I don't want to read ahead anywhere in the book. At times I've been reading and, it's getting late, or, you're feeling a bit tired and you're thinking, oh, how many pages have I got to go in this chapter? So I might just check that, but I won't read them. I'll still read through the book in order of the pages. Well, for many, many years now, I rarely buy books new. So I buy books from secondhand stores. I borrow from the library, from friends. If I buy books new, sometimes I'll get them as ebooks, so I won't have the paperbacks. I go to charity book sales and buy a lot of books for really cheap, like $1 or $2 each, that sort of thing. So I don't get a lot of new books per se, so I don't crack the spines a lot. So a lot of the books I've already got, the spines are already well creased and well cracked. Having said that, if I do buy new books, I wouldn't sit there and crack the spine loudly or fiercely to try to get that noise, because it damages the book. I think if you're reading a book, you're going to crease the book anyway. The spine's going to get creased. You can't get around that unless you try to read the pages and hold the book very closely and not, open the book wide so you can read it properly. So I don't crack the spine. I don't think people should crack the spine to get that noise. If you're going to read, open the book gently, crease it because it's going to get creased anyway, but just treat the book gently and the book will last for a lot longer. Never. I never write in a book, in pen or pencil. I have borrowed quite a few library books where people have written in pen and pencil and even crossed out words and written their own words to replace those words that were printed in the book. I've seen that quite a few times. Whenever I do see that, I do take photos of that. So I'll try to find those photos and see if I can slot them into this video. Maybe I can, I'm not sure. I'll have to see about that. But I find it a bit of a crazy, I think. I don't know why people would write and cross out words in books and write their own words or write comments in a fiction novel. Or I'm not sure what goes through people's heads when they do that. And some of the things I've read, people are getting quite angry at the author or at the book with what they're reading. I think from memory, there was one where a character had a son who was 4 or 5 years old, and I think it was a cozy mystery series, and it was a cozy mystery series where the theme was dog breeding or dog showing, something like that. The mother was talking about the son not being able to understand or read certain words because of their age, and somebody had underlined that in the book and written in pen, he's 5 years old, he should know all these words for goodness sake, and some other strong language in the novel. And it happened a couple of times in this novel. I found that quite bizarre that somebody would get so angry at something like that and think they had to write in a book that wasn't theirs, It's public property. It's a library book. It's not theirs. And just think that's okay. And that made me think, do librarians sometimes flick through the books when they return just to see if they can find something that's been handwritten and get a bit of a giggle? I'm not sure. And then it also made me think, maybe somebody needs to start a Facebook page or a channel about things they find written in books. I think that would be quite fun. And I've got a few that I've taken photos of. I'll try to put them up in the video. So there you are, my answers to the reading habits questionnaire. It's quite a fun quiz. It's quite interesting to get to know people's reading habits, especially things about, do they write in books? Do they crack the spine? They're quite fun questions. If you want to know more about my channel, check it out. There are many videos in different genres ready for you to watch and enjoy. While you're there, why not subscribe? I think you'll find something for everybody on my channel.